We will call this December 11th Commission meeting to order. Commissioner Kippen, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Topics of great discussion today, I see. First item on our agenda, we have discussed possible land exchange. I guess what's come up is we have an opportunity to exchange some land that the county hasn't used for years out at Richmond for some property that borders our fair. And I would open it up for discussion at this time. If people have questions, if you want more details, I guess I don't know how far I want to go into the details. Basically, it's a exchange that would be zero cost to the county. The land that we would be giving up is land that probably is going to be very hard to develop because of the Webb Water Moratorium. We have no access to be able to develop this land. And it hasn't been on the tax rolls for years, and I don't know how many years it's been that we've owned this, but we have not done anything with this land for years. And the opportunity comes to enhance the fair with additional property out there, whether it be for parking. Do you want me to go into as far as what this land is, where it is, and how it sets up for...
Sure can.
Basically, the land that we'd be looking at is the land that sits just to the south. There's 40 acres or 42 acres. And that also includes 2 buildings or 3 buildings are on that property. You're probably familiar with where it sits, just on the southeast corner of the fairgrounds. There's a high side to it. There's also a lot of low side on the south side that probably would never be used, but the back side, which is all high ground, and borders are primitive parking already, or primitive campground. Also, it probably would enhance our fair people that work out there for storage, and maybe possibly a building for them to work in the winter months. If you're familiar with the 2 buildings right off of the street, it's the Edwards land. So, I
The
don't know.
nice thing about it is, unlike some of the adjacent land, it has not been annexed yet.
Yeah.
Matters to
So-
some.
With that, I would ask for any input.
Well, we were approached by the landowner, as you said, Bill Edwards, and asking if we would be interested in working out some type of an exchange. There's 62 plus or minus acres out at Richmond and 40 acres at the fairgrounds, and he's willing to do an even up trade. And by South Dakota codified law, we were required to have an appraisal done on both pieces of property, which we did, and so that we can help make our decision easier, or at least justify our decision. The property at Richmond appraises for more than the property on next to the fairgrounds. So we've got those 2 appraisals that are open for public view if anybody has any questions. And at the end of the day, those 40 acres, there are a couple low areas in there. We all realize that. But it's bordered on 2 sides by the fairgrounds, so we could potentially, like Doug said, expand our primitive campground, give us the ability to access more parking, which is there's always a shortage of parking area during the Brown County Fair. The building site that is already there opens up a lot of possibilities. I know there's been talk of building a 4-H building somewhere on the fairgrounds. That location already has access to water, electricity, gas. You could easily build a new building there and have access off 24th Avenue, which would require a lot less maintenance by the fairgrounds maintenance crew, like in the winter, to keep a smaller area clean of snow, so that building could be utilized year-round without worrying about access on another part of the fairground. So there are a lot of pluses. The land out at Richmond we've owned since, I believe, 1939. And over the years, there was some question whether the city or the county owned it. At the end of the day, it was determined that the county did own that land, or does own that land, and nothing has ever been done with it. There was a project by an Eagle Scout a few years ago that we authorized. There is a walking path through that property. Like Doug said also, the moratorium that's currently on with Webb will, in the short term anyway, hinder any development as far as developing it into saleable lots and so on. That may change once Webb is able to upgrade their system and provide adequate water to the area. But in the short term, this property probably will not become available ever again. When you've got property that is available that does enhance the overall fairgrounds and the fair, I think we would be foolish to not take the landowner up on his offer and do an even exchange.
I'd support Dwayne's comments as well. I mean, I'm not sure if there are any maintenance costs to the property that we're currently taking care of, whether it's cutting grass or anything like that, but this could also be a way to mitigate that expense as well by doing the land swap, because we already have a fairgrounds maintenance staff out there that takes care of the property. So,
There is no expense.
then I would still support the swap.
For the sake of discussion, I know we've already kind of gave our opening pitch, but I would make a motion that we proceed with this land swap and open it up for discussion.
I second that.
We have a motion by Sutton and a second by Commissioner Hanson to approve the land swap. With any other addition, questions? I think one of the things that probably needs to be is, and actually it's owned for appraisal. Do you have the numbers of what the two appraised for, just so people know?
I honestly don't. I know, Jerry, do you have the appraisals with you?
I think probably that needs to be addressed, just so everybody knows that.
I
While
could
Gary's
look that.
looking for that, I guess I don't know if we've noticed it properly under the statute or not. I haven't seen any of the notices, but we have to describe the lands to be exchanged and do the 10 days notice. Is that all done before the date?
Nothing's been done.
So Dwayne's motion would be to move it forward following the statute.
Okay.
I believe the property at Fairgrounds was right in that 180, and the other Richmond land was around 250, but I think there was about a $70,000 difference, but I'll let Gary verify that for sure.
It's been a while back, so.
Right. But it was, I think 180 and 250 stand out.
But there was quite a significant difference on Bill's side.
Right. With the Fairgrounds property being assessed, or evaluated more.
I think I make that point just to realize that we have a gain in assessment, the way I understand it. That's, the property we're trading for has a higher value than the property that we retain right now. And I think that's important that people understand that we're not going backwards, we're also moving forward with a higher value property. And we don't have those numbers, just so everybody understands that.
I could try to find it.
Yeah, I was looking, I don't have it. Current folder.
See if I can find it quickly too.
But we can get that published in the minutes.
Yeah.
So if we understand, the land that we'll be acquiring, if the trade is approved, is valued higher than the
Right.
land we're giving.
Correct.
And depending on one of the other things is that if it takes the commission and fair to develop that land over a period of time, there is an opportunity to generate revenue off that, because there is about 30-some acres that is prime farm ground that is being farmed now, so that would be revenue the county could generate by renting that land out if we don't get to it the first year or second year, depending on what happens. So there is a revenue generator there until we get that land to where we decide what we want to do with it. And currently, we have no revenue coming off the property out in Richmond.
All right, I've got the Edwards appraisal here.
The other one should be right with it.
I was off $273,800 is the Edwards property. Now I'll open
163, 168.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's the number that stuck in my mind. But
All right, it's right here. Sorry, I should have had these open.
I'm just gonna bring mine along.
And the Richmond property is...
165.4.
What is it?
165.4.
65-4. So those numbers, so we have a motion from Commissioner Sutton and a second by Commissioner Hanson to move forward with advertising the land exchange. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, we have the payroll discussion. Basically, we're at the point of moving forward, or have moved forward with outsourcing our payroll to RAM. We've had some difficulties. I think we've been working through them.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Okay. We have moved forward with our outsourcing our payroll to RAM. We've had some complications. I think they're being worked out. I guess right now, looking for a couple reports yet to get the year-end totals, so the first 3 quarters and the last quarter match up, so the W-2s can go out. I don't know if there's anything else, Gary, that if anybody's here to speak of any questions, problems with that.
I just got it, you did too, from Paul saying he needs specific items that need grouping before he can continue with his work. It
Okay.
just came in.
He's got them.
And I don't know, I'm just saying what I was reading here, that came in after the meeting started here, so.
So that's
You
been
just
taken
sent
care
it
of
to him
then?
then? Okay.
Okay. So those items have been taken care of. Vicki, anything on your part? Vicki is here from RAM, representing RAM.
We have the year-to-date amount.
Okay.
And, yeah, well, I mean, the W-2s won't be a problem.
Okay.
We don't have any outstanding problems right now. It's going pretty good.
Okay.
None that I know of, anyway.
Well, and just to be clear, some of the problems probably came from the information that was being transferred from our timekeeping source, which is Sundial. There were some issues there, and a lot of those have been corrected. I think there's still some errors and stuff that have to be cleaned up. I think it's gotten a lot better, but a lot of that falls back on the county as far as the information we're providing RAM. So just so that's noted that some of that is through our timekeeping device, Sundial. So, any other questions regarding payroll? I guess that kind of buttons up payroll, Vicki. I mean, you're free to leave if you don't have anything else for us.
Rich is here.
Rich, Rich, do you have anything? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
At this point, we'll consider it working.
It has been, yes, thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we have Derek Ritchie, Fair Manager, approve authorized grandstand concession proposal.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm certain I'll be here a while, so. Last week we talked about both of the sealed bids that were open. We talked about both groups who put in bids that were sealed and not opened until the meeting, both met the minimum standards. There were some additional questions that were asked as far as what the numbers look like, how many kegs, how many cases, that sort of thing. I did send out the full analysis over the 4 years of the contract, but I do have copies in case anybody does not have their electronic version with them. Does anybody on the commission need a copy of the paper copy?
I would like one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Doug?
Max, please.
Gary.
Gary.
Rich. Yep. Okay. Well, you'll see over the historicals on the first page, we talked about kegs and cases. And then for the purpose of being able to look at this in a statistically accurate format based on the last contract that was approved, we have to take the cases and divide them by 7 to get the equivalent, because that was the current case of the previous contract. So evaluating the 2 bids head to head, current keg at 75, current keg at 15. That was the bid under the contract that covered 2015 through 2018, which was prior to my start as the manager. And that also matches the bid from the Boys and Girls Club for the current proposed RFP versus the 85 and 20, which was proposed by the other bidder, in this case, which would be the Hockey Association. So because we can't project future sales with any kind of foreseeable accuracy, we used what the historical average was for the last 3 years. So what you'll see is that at the bottom, over the course of the 3-year contract of 2016 to 2018, you have to throw out 2015 because it's a 4-year rolling average and the contract is only for 3, but that's also a median for the performance of the grandstand, so that's not a significant indicator. When you take that across all 3 lines, assuming that we have that trend like we have had in the last 3 years of the up and down, if you look at over the course of 3 years, there's a potential revenue gain to the county of $99,257.14. Now that's not the only thing that we need to look at. We also need to look at food, and we also need to look at what the numbers were historically for the performance on a day-to-day basis. You'll find those items on the following 3 pages. Now the drink projection is based on a $5 average cost of a beverage. Okay? Now on page 4, we look at, okay, we want to look at what are the pros and cons. So what's the potential? There is a potential that we could go backwards with the new bidder. So what are our break-even points? Because we want to make sure as a fair and as a county that we're at the very least maintaining the same revenue threshold that we've had for the last few years. So on page 4, you'll see in descending order 18, 17, 16, 15, what would the drop be in keg count or the drop case in keg or drop count in case count that we could still take and maintain the same revenue. On the following columns, you'll see keg ratios to case ratios. What that is that basically that's a product split. So that's saying what percentage comes out of keg, what percentage comes out of case. And you'll see that over time, although not a huge amount, we're seeing a little bit of a shift toward cases. A couple of percentage point increase on cases, a couple of percentage point decrease on kegs. Now that's more of the distributors in general moving a little bit away from kegs and moving more to case, bottle, and can product. So noticing that trend, we flip now to the very last page. We received some questions as to why there was a change in the RFP from the 15 for 7 versus the $15 per case. That's a big part of it. The other part of it is that it's easier to get a handle sometimes on product, whether it's shrink or not. Some of the loss could come from inefficient kegs, inefficient lines. Obviously, we're dealing with volunteers in all directions. We're not dealing with professional bartenders, so you can't expect 100% use out of a keg. It's just not realistic. When we look at what the old price points were, under the old contract, we as a county received 43 cents per bottle or per can, which is equivalent to that case we're talking about. On the beer side, it was 60 cents per case, per drink. The change to the $15 was to make those more even. So now it's 63 cents per can or bottle, 60 cents per can or per cup of keg beer. So now we're dealing on equal footing. So if the ratios do continue to change due to a distributor preference, not necessarily having anything to do with whichever nonprofit is successful today, we're still going to be able to maintain our revenue no matter which way those ratios flip.
So if I read this correctly, with the up in the bid over 3 years, if nothing were to change,
Yes.
the county would see an increase of $9,257.14.
Yes. If the keg and case numbers stay in that general trend line, yes, there would be an increase to the county of $92.57.14.
And that's per year or for the 3 years?
That's over the life of the contract.
3 years.
Over 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Per year.
A little over $3,000 per year. just shy of 3,100. As our cost for security has increased, as I'm sure you've seen through the budget requests and through the payroll reports, that's also something that we have to look at too as well, is how will we look at other avenues to realize the revenue to help offset that. Now, this will not cover the increase at 100%, but we anticipate those security costs to only increase going forward.
Anybody have anything to add to what Derek just mentioned?
I would add, sorry, Ron. Go ahead. I would add that the changes in the cans is a significant reason for that is because we provided a variety. When I started 7 years ago, there was 2 different kinds of cans and 2 different types of kegs. And what we heard from the county at the time and the fair manager at the time is there was a real issue with the waiting time. Sometimes they were waiting in lines up to 20 minutes. There was also an issue with the varieties provided. So we spent a lot of time and resources over the last couple of years. We doubled the number of volunteers. When I started, there was about 350 volunteers. Last year, we filled 850 positions. We went from 2 or 3 varieties of cans up to now we have 8 last year, and then the same thing with the cakes to meet the needs of the Brown County request. So I think that had a lot to do with it as well. It wasn't just a distributor.
But I would respectfully say that given our relationship with the distributor in that grandstand and the fact that I can't speak for managers past, but having been on the board and on the executive board of the fair, I know as incoming president in 2016 that I would have been more involved as I am today. So I think that becomes a matter of service to the customer. I mean, you have responded to that, and it's not a knock, but I think that that's more driven by the response of the customer as well. But to your point, they have responded.
Yeah,
And
our goal was to meet the customer's needs.
Yep.
We did a lot of surveying with our customers at the fair throughout the last couple of years and asked what they wanted. We're the ones that initiated the tents in the infield. They didn't want to come back and fight the crowds in the grandstand, and that was back to more volunteers needed, things like that, because our goal was to have nobody waiting in line more than 5 minutes. They didn't come to wait in the line. They came to enjoy the entertainment and have a good time. So that's what resulted in a significant increase in the number of volunteers and all the levels.
While I appreciate the tent management and the tents being manned, there was a tent actually stage front VIP, and part of that discussion when we changed the VIP stage front was a collaborative effort between the fair and the Boys and Girls Club to figure out how we would maintain that, primarily due to the loss of revenue and the concern of if we move everybody back to the grandstand. So I think that was probably a collaborative effort as well.
Thank you. I guess one of the things I would ask for the county commissioners to consider is, I appreciate Derek's perspective on this because his job as the fair manager is to make sure the fair is doing what you want it to do, and part of that is raise money or certainly not lose money. And I would ask you to consider maybe the other side of that equation, what the fair has allowed the club to do for the last 26 years of our partnership together. This is, from my perspective, not a typical RFP where the goal of the county is to maximize dollars in the county coffers. I encourage you to look at the other side of it as what do the dollars do. So for 26 years, we've been able to use the proceeds from the grandstand, and mind you, we earn these dollars, right? It's not a gift from the county. We go out and marshal the volunteers. Mike said 850 slots. That's 650 different people that are working the fair in various spots, and the board members in this room today have worked dozens of hours at each fair and hundreds of hours over their tenure as a board member. But we're able to take those dollars in and use them for Brown County youth. And it's not just Aberdeen youth, it's Brown County youth that attend the club. And some of those kids don't get programming other than what the club allows for them every day. It's either after-school education, tutoring, there's STEM activities with 3D printers and computers. There are field trips. Mike's staff has over 45 separate programs every year that they offer. It's not, in addition to normal things you would think about like athletics and going outside, but there's a lot of education opportunities. So We've tried to be a good partner with the county to use those funds you've allowed us to earn every year to benefit the youth of Brown County that really need them the most. We qualify for free and reduced lunch because of the demographics of our kids. So we're taking these dollars that you're allowing us to earn and we're really putting them to use in the community, in the county, to benefit the youth. And that's what I would ask the county to really look at and consider what we're doing with the dollars you're allowing us to earn. Happy to share with the county. You guys obviously need to receive your share to make this make sense. But every dollar you're allowing us to earn is going to a purpose within the county that really supports. The last thing I'll leave you with is, when we built the club, and if any of you have not had the opportunity to come to the club, I would encourage you to come and see what your dollars do every day for these kids. But when we built this club, it was about a $5.5 million project, and we solicited, obviously, many donors, and we asked, the city of Aberdeen for $1 million, and they actually had given us $200,000 prior to construction. They've committed to $1 million now for the 10 years from the club was built. You'll notice we didn't ask the county for a solicitation for that project because we've always had this partnership with you where we've been able to raise these operational dollars to the grandstand to support the kids. So we were able to find partners to help us with the brick and mortar, but we've always viewed the county as our partner to allow for programming and operational dollars. And I think if you come to the club and see, you will know that your dollars are being well spent, that you're allowing us to earn at the grandstand. So we appreciate the opportunity we've had for 26 years, and we would really ask to have that opportunity going forward to benefit Brown County youth. Thank you.
While it is an impassioned plea, and I don't disagree with the work that they do, part of what we also have to look at, too, is our ability as a county as a whole. Mr. Tobin did mention that it benefits Brown County as well. I mean, without getting into, ratio splits of how many inside Aberdeen, how many outside Aberdeen, we also have infrastructure needs that we'll be needing over the course of the next, foreseeable future due to a lack of capital expenditure funding and project development over the past probably 15 to 20 years. The last significant project, excluding the primitive campground development and the ticket booth that we've done and some other things over the course of the last 3 years, was almost 20 years ago now, with the construction of the ice arena. We will have significant expenses going forward. It's not a matter of when, of if these buildings will fail and need to be redone or rehabbed or completely remodeled, but it's a matter of when. And there was a chance during the RFP process for folks to be involved. The RFP was put forth before the commission. I'm not going to necessarily say I'm against the Boys and Girls Club and for the Hockey Association. I'm merely here stating that there is a process that was followed. Modifications were made. It was advertised for public for 2 weeks. Any and all nonprofits who we could make the argument, all nonprofits that showed interest, benefit, and develop youth in different ways. The process was followed, and while it is a unique relationship over the last 26 years, it is a grandstand operations contract at the end of the day, and we have followed this process. The time for modifications, were made. There was an opportunity to bid over the minimum. Some chose to, some chose not to, for various reasons. But ultimately, this is a decision that the four of you will wrestle with and make a decision on.
When you look at $9,000 over 3 years, you think it's peanuts. That's not my concern. The concern is the RFP. What happens with our future bidding process out there? Does everybody lowball us on these contracts from here? I mean, you see what we're getting in here? We're not going to win on this either way. Whether we vote Boys and Girls Club of Hockey, we're not going to win. But it puts us in an awkward spot because myself as campaigning, I campaign to protect the taxpayers' dollars. That's what we're commissioned, assigned to do, and it's not just the people that are at the Boys and Girls Club, it's Brown County as a whole. And it's a difficult situation, but my concern is with an RFP, if we accept the high bid, which is, are we going to go down this road with the next time we have a bid for highway, or the bid for a computer, or are we going to have the same thing when we do the bid for the beer garden? What's going to happen to us if we go down this road? I'm just throwing that out there because there's a lot of responsibility on this commission for what happens in the future on these type of things. It's just not so much about this issue that we're talking about now. It'll lead for the next issues for years to come. And that's the problem we have, is when we set a precedence, it doesn't take very long for people to jump on the bandwagon, I assure you. That's my concern.
The only thing I would offer is, obviously this is different than a highway bid, there's no nonprofit involved, and that is a situation where the low bidder is what you're trying to go for, although some would say sometimes the low bid is you get what you pay for. But I think that's completely different than what we're talking about here with a nonprofit group that's using the money raised to benefit the community. I don't see the highway contractors.
Well, if I was a poor example, but okay, we got a beer garden contract coming up. We have a Centennial Village deal that's coming up. It's just not the one contract the fair has. We have various contracts out there.
I understand that, and I guess what I would say is kind of back to my earlier mantra, which is, where are those dollars going? Why is the county allowing nonprofits to do these contracts? If the fair managers determine there's infrastructure needs, then what I would have encouraged the county to do is then tell us how much revenue you need from the grant concessions instead of pitting one nonprofit out over another to try and come up with a number. Why don't you tell us what you need, and then we can see if we can do the work that we're doing, because I don't hear any complaints about what the Boys and Girls Club has done over 26 years with the grandstand. I think it's been a great partnership, and as the fair manager has requested changes, we've tried to be responsive to that. As the fair board's required changes, we've tried to be responsive to that. So I think that partnership has been good. We don't have deficits in what we're doing there, but if the county needs more revenue, then I would ask you to just tell us that and say, we're going to need to collect X number of dollars. And if the club then makes a decision, well, gosh, for the amount of work that's going into it, because last year was 3,500 hours of people time at the Brown County Fair concessions. If it doesn't make sense for us, then we would then politely decline. I don't see that. I don't see the county needing that dramatic of an increase in revenue, but I will tell you that where the money is going is serving the county. It's not going to a private individual. It's not a profit scenario. It's a scenario where the revenue that the county is allowing us to earn is going to provide services that county doesn't have to provide themselves then. Because there are youth out there that need these services.
Rob brings up a couple of interesting points. He mentions if the club decides. And I guess that's really what is at the heart of this argument. Who is actually making the decision? You just stated that if we needed more money for infrastructure, we could come to you. There was a line to increase the potential bid on the per keg and per case price. And the board, for whatever reason, decided not to do that.
So I can tell you the reason, Derek, is because every dollar that we're able to take from concessions goes to programming. And every dollar we give the county doesn't go to programming. So we met the county minimum, as we did the last contract, simply because every dollar that we're able to retain is going to the programming I'm talking about. That being said, it's a partnership, and the county needs revenue as well. And if the county revenue needs are higher, then you're asking us by the RFP process to guess what those revenue needs are. We don't know. So we put forward the minimum bid simply because the dollars that we receive are going to the kids, to the program.
And I don't dispute that.
And so that's where I see the flaw in the RFP process, is I don't know what you need. The process is designed like a highway bid to say who's going to do it for the cheapest, or in this case, who's going to give us the most, but that overlooks where the money's going and what it's doing.
I think materially we need to separate the fact that while I appreciate it's being used as a fundraising vehicle for any nonprofit, at the end of the day, it's an operations contract for the grandstand. So with those things being the primary focus, that RFP situation has to be followed. And is this a club decision as far as what they're going to offer, volunteer, or have us come to have to ask for? Or is this a requirement of the commission? Does the commission get to make the decision? I think that's the fundamental argument we're having here, is that who actually gets to make the decision over how the grandstand is operating? Is it the club, or is it the county and the fair?
Well, clearly it's the commission that makes the decision in the end. I'm merely here to provide a perspective different than yours, which is the analytical aspect of the revenue side for the county, and I respect that, and I said that how I started my conversation.
Right.
But there's also a greater need, in my opinion, that's being served, that the analytics of the dollar per 60 cents per glass, or 63 cents per glass, or 60 cents per K-cup overlooks. It's where does that money go, and what does it do, and who does it benefit? And that's what I'm merely asking the county to consider in evaluating. I understand the RFP process, but for years there wasn't an RFP process. For years there was an evaluation to make sure that this was a good partnership and the dollars were being used in what the county thought was the best interest of the county. Only recently has this turned into an RFP process.
I can't speak to that.
Sure.
I do know that it was a contract that was entertained. I'd have to look in to see if it was actually advertised. The 2015 contract, that was supposed to expire in 2017.
Never been advertised.
Never been
This is
advertised?
the first time it's ever been advertised.
There have been changes to the ordinances and the purchasing policy that have probably dictated that, but I'll have to get back to you on that
And
one.
part of that is because we've had some questions from other nonprofits out in the community saying, what is the special relationship between the county and hockey or the county and boys and girls? Why does no other nonprofit, whether it be Hub City Soccer, whether it be the Safe Harbor, there's a number of good organizations in this community. Now granted, I understand where you're coming from as far as there's some special things to consider here, but in our position, we got to consider 6 things. Right in the ordinance it says, and I don't know if everybody here is familiar with this, but when we're deciding who we're awarding this to, the 6 things we got to consider is, number 1, the nonprofit status of the organization submitting the proposal, and so obviously both fit that. Number 2, the proposal bid amount. Number 3, the strategic plan for Fair Week submitted with the proposal that we got. Number 4, the organization's volunteer base. Number 5, the organization's past history and experience of running the concession. And number 6, the overall impact on and the benefit of the citizens of Brown County. So, obviously it's not going to be an easy decision here. We got 2 really great groups, but those are what we have to go by, and so I can respect where our fair manager is coming from. He's put in a difficult position too. Yeah, I guess just remember those are the 6 things we got to consider here.
My main point is the process that I'm duty-bound to follow. It's not a supporting one organization versus the other, no matter how it may be spent.
And I understand that, and we're not here to talk down about any other organization. I'm here to talk about what the Boys and Girls Club does in the county, and I think the 6 items you read, Rachel, I think the county, in evaluating the proposals, has the ability to pick the Boys and Girls Club based on your 6 criteria. I don't think there's anything that you read that would prevent you from doing that.
Do you guys do concessions during the races and stuff, or is it only week of the fair?
No, we don't. Car races?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've done them once for the horse races, they asked us, but that was just that 1 year. Yeah. Otherwise, the person that does the races does his own.
Sure. And did any other, obviously we had the 2 proposals that actually came in, did any other groups throughout the community call and ask questions about it, or?
There were 2 groups that called, one group that we met with, but because of the shortened time frame, the way that it's currently set up, which we may want to evaluate in the future, they were not able to get approval from their board to move forward because it fell in between meetings, so they had to opt to not put a bid in, but they did formally say that they were interested, but were not able to satisfy some of the terms of the bid at this time because they couldn't get board approval at that point, so. There was one other bidder.
I guess I just want to be able to say it was opened up, and I know this is a difficult situation for every party involved, but when somebody comes to me and says, why isn't that opened up to every nonprofit? We have to be able to say, well, now it is, because that's what the right thing to do. And now we have the decision put before us of what we do with it, and it's not easy, but
Yeah,
at least now it's done legitimately.
The only thing I would say, Rachel, is we maybe need to do a better job of explaining to the county then, so when somebody asks you that question, you can explain why for 26 years it's been the Boys and Girls Club. Because if we haven't armed you with the facts, and if you haven't had the opportunity to come and visit the club and see, then it may be a harder question to answer, but I think maybe given some of the information you shared today, and if you come and see the club at 3 o'clock on a school day or any day during the summer, you'll recognize pretty quickly what those dollars are for and why that relationship has worked so well and supported a Brown County initiative, I'll call it, for a long time.
Well, I do go to the club. I've got 3
I know you
kiddos,
do, I
but-
said some of the others, so, yep.
Well, that brings me to the next point. It's going to be a little difficult to vote in this today. I have 2 commissioners that have to abstain, I have 1 commissioner absent.
All for naught then, Mr. Chairman?
Well, I think it's pretty hard for 2 people to vote.
Per the current structure of the ordinance, with the eye toward the award is not till December 30th, so there is time.
Well, my next thought is that we reorganize, we have 2 new commissioners coming in for the 2019 start, and our next meeting is January 2nd.
Then you would have to vote today or call a special meeting, because the ordinance requires an award by December 30th.
So it'd be nice to have at least a 3rd commissioner.
I agree. I'm just stating what some of the limitations are. to not voting today.
Your next meeting after today is in January?
No,
Oh,
that, I was thinking that we, under reorganization with the two new commissioners, because we are binding them by what's gonna happen over
well,
the
as
next
long
3
as
years.
Tom's here next week, you should have 3.
Right. Well, given the fact that we only have 2 that can vote today, I think we don't have any choice but to table the decision until the 18th of December. Let anyone, I mean, everyone showed up today, let whoever would like to offer testimony or opinion, speak up. That way at least we've got that out in the open for us to consider and just postpone the vote until next week.
And the meetings are taped, so those folks that are gone can see
Right.
all those comments.
Right.
I'd like to have one input. It isn't, I'm not into the dollars, even though I do understand the dollars is really driven. The one thing that, as a Fair Board member, that has bothered me over the last few years, and we have talked with Boys and Girls Club to try to address this, but it has fallen on pretty much deaf ears. And I'm not sure if the whole contract written up has this written in it in the future. If not, it should be, is the volunteers that help Boys and Girls Club, help any organization, is amazing. But the drinking that is done by the volunteers the week of the fair, I feel is ridiculous. I think that it's a poor example that they're putting on to the kids of the Boys and Girls Club. Not all commissioners have probably been under the grandstand to see this, but it's excessive drinking by the volunteers, and we've asked this to be stopped. We've asked it for 2 years. It hasn't gotten any better.
Excuse me, who have you asked?
We haven't heard a word.
Who have you asked?
We've had a conversation in my office, and the response that was given to me was, you wouldn't begrudge a volunteer a burger and a beer, would you? So we have had that conversation.
Well, that's not what he's talking about.
You.
He's talking about excessive
No.
drinking
I have
by
had a conversation with
volunteers.
you.
The new contract does outline that there is no drinking. There is nothing in the old contract that has prevented that in the past, and you have never asked us to refrain from drinking.
I absolutely have. And the fact that you're saying that is disingenuous.
excessively drinking?
We have actually been cutting down that.
You've been cutting down?
Yeah.
Okay. I got
Hey, well, let me ask this
the fair
question.
board?
Excuse me, I want to address this gentleman's point. Can you walk into any bar and watch a bartender drink behind the bar? Does any insurance policy allow you to do that? Now, I don't know the terms of your insurance policy, but since you brought it up, I'm going to ask.
I'm just asking a simple question.
And I'm responding in kind. There was a question of concern from one of my Fair Board members on excessive drinking.
asked if they are allowed to...
They are not, no.
They're not, okay.
And what brought this up, I was at a convention, and it was representatives out of Wisconsin, alcohol, and Minnesota. And at the end of the deal, I told them about, that's some of our grandstand. And he said he didn't even realize that was happening at this day and age, that they were people would allow drinking as a volunteer. And he said, just so you know, if something ever seriously would happen with your county knowing that drinking is done, if a lawsuit would ever come about, they're going to go after the county with deeper pockets than they would Boys and Girls Club.
I got to add, though, that we had noticed on 2 occasions someone that had been excessive drinking, and we had removed him. So, and we tried to do a good job of marshaling that. And like I said, when we do notice, we have removed 2 people on 2 separate occasions, so we're doing our best.
And the current contract reads that is what the requirement is. We're willing to adhere to any of the contract or any of the discussions, as long as we know up front. That conversation never took place before.
The conversation did take place. It was in my office, and the fact that you're representing that it didn't take, that leads me to question the relationship that Mr. Tobin has leaned on for 26 years, because we did try to curb that.
Derek, you said curb versus stop. There's a big difference between curb and stop. There's a big difference between excessive drinking and Mike's comment, which we've all heard and stand by, which is a burger and a beer, because they are volunteering 3 or 4 hours of their time to stand there and serve. So we have provided them with food, and we provided them with a beer. But as Mike said, if there's been any, and I would encourage you, DAR's in law enforcement, to talk to Brown County staff, if there's this rampant drunkenness by the volunteers where the law enforcement have to get involved, it doesn't happen, it doesn't occur. So now the new RFP says no drinking, guess what? That will ease us to enforce no drinking because the county has made that a policy now. But it suffices to say, it's been commonplace. I've had many friends on the fair board over the years. I've had many friends who've been head of the fair board over the years. It is not uncommon for drinking to occur at the Brown County Fair by both the fair board and the volunteers, the beer garden staff, Prairie Village staff. You know, it's all over. So you want it changed? Then trust me, we will be a good partner as we've always done with the county, and we will make the change this year because now it's a mandate.
I know we're digressing a little bit, but Jeff, are your volunteers allowed to drink
They are not, no.
at all?
No, and that was obviously popping water. That was a change that was made a few years ago, primarily at the direction of our insurance provider.
Insurance?
Does your contract say that?
I'm sorry?
Does your contract require no drinking?
I'd have to read it. I didn't
It
read
does,
the
it
contract.
does.
Mr. Chairman, can the commission disclose the reason why they were abstaining?
I have 3 kids that go to Boys and Girls.
Okay.
And I have a grandson who is one of the directors, according to my... And I love my grandson dearly, so don't want to jeopardize that.
And you accept that as
Well,
obvious reason?
I guess you have 2 votes. I mean, it'd be a little odd to have 2 people voting when you're a board of 5. I mean, if they abstain, I mean, I can't make their decision for them. I mean, they're choosing to abstain.
Okay.
I can't force somebody to vote if they're abstaining. I mean, that's, you know, I have no place to go with that.
And the abstaining makes sense for obvious reasons, for the perceived conflict, whether real or otherwise. I mean,
Someone could take advantage of that.
it could be perceived that way, so.
You know, you could have 5 members on this board, and there could be a conflict of such, and you'd have all 5 abstaining. What would you get? I mean, where would you go with that? I mean,
Can I ask a question? Okay, I just want to know, in the future contract, is it going to say anything about, like, when or what time the beer sales will stop? You know, like, I know not every concert they end differently, but is there a way that we have in the contract that says, at the last song, that it is, beer sales are stopped?
That says it in the contract.
Does it? Okay. I just want to make
You
sure.
are.
Because we have a problem with that at the last fair, telling people that they have to drink or don't. Those were our words. And I had so many people upset with us because we just got these beers. That shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have been selling. It should have been shut down. So I just want to know what the Boys and Girls Club can do to guarantee that we can shut down at the last song.
Yep, we follow the contract, yep, absolutely. We stop selling at the end of the performance.
Are the fair board
We
members
redeem
given
tickets for
copy of
15
the
minutes.
Can I ask you one more question?
Once they're formally approved. What we're doing now is we're coming up with the RFP language, which will dictate the contract.
And then, so the fair
Once the
board
contract-
all has access so that when they're out there, they're familiar what is allowed and what isn't.
I can't speak to historicals because I wasn't here when the 2015 contract was signed, but going forward, yes, they do
Okay,
receive copies of
thank
the
you.
contracts. Yeah.
That gives them a little awareness.
Right,
with-
ma'am.
Well, I was
Sorry for
just saying, I would
interrupting.
just like it to stop at before the encore, because, again, you should keep selling, and I just, you know, and I used to be one of those people that drank till the end, and it is expensive to drink there, and for someone to say, drink or dump it, you know, well, you sold it. So you should give us time to drink it instead of booting us out of the fairgrounds then. Then we should be able to stand there and drink. So I would just hope that we could come to an agreement too on how to enforce that. Now, how can we enforce it? Will we have each one of you guys to be at each tent and say, okay, we're shutting it down? Or does each board member have to be there? Now, not all of us board members can do that because we have other obligations with local boards and, you know, all kinds of things. Do we need to have a police officer to say, shut this down? We just need to know how to enforce this. Thank you.
That's something you can take
Those
at a
are,
board meeting.
those are points that we can take up once the contract language is formally adopted. What this is this is an RFP to evaluate if people are qualified, able, and financially and volunteer-wise, can they pull it off? That's essentially what the RFP is for. The contract at that point that's where we get into the formal language. The RFP is the minimum standard. Contract language can be added above and beyond the RFP if you guys decide to do that, so.
Anyone else to speak to this issue?
Do you know what will happen with the clubhouse then? If the hockey association does take it over, because I know last meeting they said they wanted people.
We would terminate the contract because I don't feel that any one group could handle both.
Right.
Yeah, so the contract would be terminated and rebid at that point.
Okay, thank you.
So essentially you let them out of a contract they've already committed to?
No, I would say they have the option to void that based on the parameters of the current contract.
I think you have 30 days after the end of the event in which to terminate the contract, my understanding of
We
the
have
contract.
30 days.
I think each party does actually, and it's well beyond 30 days, so
So we're gonna hold a contract and ordinance then, is what you're saying?
that's what I'm asking.
I would counter that under the ordinance that was changed, no contract for either grandstand or clubhouse can be for longer than a 3-year period, and the current grandstand contract is a 4-year period. So I think we have to really be careful on the slippery slope of what we want to really pinpoint and split hairs on the letter of that, but I'd have to look and see what the capabilities are. There's no penalty portion of the contract, so I don't know, even if they did walk away from it, what recourse we would have to penalize them. So,
I don't know if this is an outdated ordinance, but the contract will terminate in one of 3 situations, and one is at any other time by mutual agreement of the parties. Mutual.
I guess we have the answer then. Whether we choose to let
One
them
of
out.
them is automatically at the conclusion of the 3rd fair, but one of the other ones is that.
Which for the current contract should have been last year, so. That's where, I mean, if we start splitting hairs into specifics, we run into challenges on both sides when we want to be absolute. And this is just a process point. If you guys decide that you wish to go with the higher bidder at the Boys and Girls Club, that is your decision. I'm just saying that there's a pocket of rules that I have to fit within, so I just need to make sure that I address to you what that pocket is and when we may be getting outside of that pocket, so.
Derek, can I ask, was that an
Sure.
educated or an assumption that they couldn't handle both? Was it based on volunteer availability, or what was your reasoning why you just stated that?
I don't feel any nonprofit organization can handle both of them, based on the fact that some folks have to send emails for volunteers and advertise on the radio. You could make an educated decision that some folks can't handle certain contracts they currently have. So, looking at volunteer based and number of hours needed, it would be impossible for any one group to handle both.
So volunteerism is a big portion of the thought process.
It is. We take a look at 3 components. We look at the base of the organic volunteer base of the organization, and then the ability to get volunteers above and beyond that. So that's why some nonprofits that did express interest were not considered, just because they couldn't even scale at the organic level to handle a clubhouse contract. So.
The only other comment I want to make as not as a Boys and Girls Club member, but as a volunteer, I think as one of the 850 volunteers, to say that we excessively drink, I feel is extremely unfair. And I think that should be in the records. I represent one of those volunteers, and that's really a stretch for what I deal with when I'm there. So I just want to mention that as a volunteer.
So Rachel, you said there's 6 parts of the ordinance that we had to read through to meet to see which one, any of those hold any special weight over the other, or are they
It
all?
does not say that. In
all
determining,
equally?
yeah, in determining to whom a contract should be awarded, the county commission will consider the following 6. And I can get you copies of them.
There's no weighting, so
No,
obviously
no.
you look seriously through there, yes, the bid may fall short of where we are compared to the other party in play here, but I find a hard time arguing that the Boys and Girls Club is very capable of everything else on that list. So I'd like to go on record in saying that I think we've proven that time and time again that we're very capable of meeting all of those other needs on that list.
And I would agree. I don't think that they have any material deficiencies to meet any need.
I'm kind of, I guess I'm not a political person or anything. I'm more based on emotion, as you know. Some of you have gotten emails from me that I know. You gotta, we've been operating with Brown County Fair budget, with this fairgrounds concessions as part of our budget. I'll just say, any other entity isn't depending on it like we have been. So it's gonna cripple us for a little bit until we figure out how to replace that revenue. So I'd like you to kind of keep that in mind. As again, on the emotional side of things is where I come from, because I got a passion for the kids. So I always put the politics aside and concentrate on the children is where my incentive and goal is, and I guess that's what I'm pleading on on your guys' side, I guess.
And like, it's not just the children, it's their families too.
Although I think we can all agree that every nonprofit needs money. And from Safe Harbor to the animals at the Humane Society, that's something to take into consideration as well. And I think, some of the reasons that Safe Harbor and those other organizations can't give you an offer is who wants to take money from the kids? Nobody does. I love Boys and Girls Club. I financially give to Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you.
So what I'm saying is I think they don't want to go up against a great organization. But I think we all can say that every organization needs money to do what they do. Everybody has fundraisers, and that's what I should say. Thank you.
Well, it's difficult, for the amount of calls and emails I've had over the last week. It comes back to the RP. If we make a decision to go the one way, there's a taxpayer base out there that will be calling me and texting me that way and say, what do you think you're doing? So you see what position we get in, and I'm not holding a grudge against hockey, I'm not holding a grudge Boys and Girls Club. I'm looking at the big picture of our county as a whole, what happens for us, because no matter, as you know, we as commissioners don't seem to do too many things right. That's just the way it is. But unfortunately, the decision has to come down to, I believe, more than two people voting. And I think we have to get past that. If we're going to have two that have conflicts, I believe I need a third.
I agree.
I agree.
It's too important a decision for just two of us to decide.
Right. So with that, I would entertain a motion to defer until December 18th.
I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Sutton, a second by Hanson to, we want to state that differently, table it.
Table.
Till December 18th vote. And at that time, we will make sure we have the 3 voting commissioners. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Any which way.
Thanks for the opportunity to...
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
Not so much, but...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. That's all right. I
Yeah.
completely understand where you're at. I respect that. That's why I say it's not... I don't. I never take it that way. I know you have a job.
And I had a
Pretty hard.
tipping board in my car. And when any one of the boys would get a horn, I hit the horn. Yes, we took him. He was over in Fernie, always a cheer.
That all right?
Okay.
Getting old at 30.
That would conclude our items on our agenda. Max, do you want to take care of some of your things?
Okay, it's a question regarding payroll. In payroll 25, one correction was made from payroll 24. There were 2 additional errors made where the gross salary for Sundial was not met by RAM. And then there's also 5 individuals who were paid holiday pay when they did not work, anytime during the pay period. What is the plan for those?
And if I recall, the department heads approve those.
Well,
Department heads probably didn't, unless they look at the grand total of their department, they're just seeing, I mean, I could see where the department head would approve it, because most of them don't do a spreadsheet comparing what they think the payroll should be to what is submitted. I think I'm treasurer's office, myself, registered deeds, how many more, Gary, put a cover sheet with their payroll?
Right. That's pretty much it right there.
So I guess we have people that got paid for 2 hours of holiday?
Some 2, some 8, some 4.
And one already brought in a check yesterday,
Which one was that?
Janet.
Okay, what did you do with it?
We're giving it over to the treasurer's department.
What are they supposed to do with it? Because this has to go through RAM, so that it's not reflected on their W-2.
You gotta track them all.
That's gonna have to be, what we have to decide is how to deal with the rest of that.
So they can't just be deducted from the next payroll to make it right?
Most of these people won't work until after the first of the year. That would work for the landfill person because, you know,
So these people don't work. How do they get a paycheck?
because in Sundial, the holidays are automatic, and they should not be automatic. They should be...
On that particular case, for the one, Kurt never, and he told me, I conferred with him yesterday, that he didn't tell Patty that they were no longer working, so they weren't disabled in Sundial to take the holidays away.
So it all comes down to this, whatever information we give RAM, they can only do the information that we give them, and if we don't give them accurate information, it's not going to be right. So it comes back to the department head. It's critical that the department head authorize and look at each payroll, and what they sign off on is what RAM's going to do.
But to correct it, you can't just have the employees write a check to the county.
No, I understand that.
It has to go back through RAM to correct those W-2s.
But they do need to write a check to the county.
Because they
And
were
then
paid.
it's 2 steps.
Right,
They need
it's
the check,
2
and
steps.
then,
Yeah.
but I think that those department heads that are signing off on the payroll should take ownership, and they have the relationship with the employee. They can call them up and say, hey, I messed this up.
That's no problem.
And that's what Kurt did.
Okay.
How to get the W-2s correct.
Yeah,
RAM
we just
just
gotta
needs-
have a
RAM
list of
just
which
needs
changes
to-
need to be made.
To enter that information in.
But I've got
we need
changes
that
from
amount?
payroll 21 and 22 that have not been changed yet.
How come we didn't have this discussion here when Vicki and what's his name were here?
Well,
Because
I
it's
think
not RAM.
It's our information now.
But that was
not-
payroll discussion, I'm just...
But it's not getting to RAM.
My question is, on these for payroll 21 and 22, there's some differences of 20 cents, 30 cents, $5, $66. Who's in charge of making those corrections?
Basically, the county is, yeah. We have to make those adjustments each payroll, and how does she know which ones have been done and which ones haven't been done?
I've been tracking it.
You're telling me you're gonna notice the difference of 20 cents on their next paycheck?
Yep.
Okay.
Before they get
It's called
paid?
accounting and auditing.
Before they get paid?
No, because we do not see anything before they're paid. Legislative audits, when they were here, they told the auditor's office, before you hit the button for that direct deposit, you should be looking at your number and proofing it against something. We cannot get any kind of a report until after the direct deposit is made.
So you have nothing to proof it against.
Nothing to proof it against.
That's what, too bad they're not here.
It's not them.
question, why is this so difficult?
The what?
Why is this so difficult? we need to figure out what the cog in all of this is, because there's a
Sundial
problem.
is the cog in this.
This is bogging everything down. And it's nuts that we can't figure this out. It needs to be figured out. And I think the point of putting it on there with Max being a player, the commission being a player, and Ram being a player, whoever else we're missing, get them in here. That was the point of having a meeting, so everybody could be here, so we could all talk about it. So if there's other people we need here, put it on the agenda for next week. Get every single party here and figure the dang thing out, because it can't be that difficult. I'm
3
actually
weeks
losing
ago.
time out on the streets because I have people come up to me saying, why can't you get this figured out? And I have to tell them, it's not my issue. I don't know what else to tell you. It's not that difficult. Everybody thinks we're nuts that we can't figure it out. We gotta figure it out.
3 weeks ago, there was a meeting, and I understood that the 2 commissioners were going to be there, and no commissioners were there.
There was a meeting.
You told me about it.
What meeting are you
That was
talking about?
after the commission meeting. We were asked, you were gone, you were off forward, but regardless.
That's when he
But
was...
anyway, these are the
We
problems.
need a direction, one way or the other. If we're making a change...
I think we already gave the direction,
Yeah.
Gary.
Right, and the
we-
direction was given before I realized Rich and Vicki were even here today.
Okay, a month ago, we relieved you of your commission duties to get the payroll situation figured out. Any changes that need to get to RAM are on you, Gary.
And that's what we've been doing.
Okay.
I mean, we've been making those changes. I mean, every...
So they've gotten all the
Every
changes.
payroll, there's been a list.
Yep.
And, you know, we've had, and so, yeah, it's, I know like some of these things, like some of the payouts, that was already on, that was on this payroll, so I'll have to verify each individual one, but I know there's been lists of changes that have been made.
So
each
prior
payroll.
to this payroll, they've all been changed.
That's what I've been told, is that I haven't went through each individual person, and we've had
But that
staff out
information
that-
was gotten to RAM,
Right.
and we have
Okay.
verification that they've...
I gave this sheet,
Well, I know
The
Vicki
Wednesday
said she's
before
been
Thanksgiving.
receiving deductions at each payroll, so,
Corrections or deductions?
corrections,
Who sends them to her?
Patty does.
Are they verified by you so you know they're correct?
I haven't verified each individual person.
I think that's critical, Gary. I think that's why we put you in charge of making sure this situation got remedied.
We can do that.
We're not talking a lot of people here.
No.
How many you got there?
Roughly 15 for payroll 21, 22, and 22, and 21 for sundial correction, but...
well,
the-
ignore those, because that'll never happen.
But, so you're basically
Well,
talking,
That's the problem right there. And then
basically 10 people
one
here.
day we're told not to do it, especially the small ones, other days we are.
I would say do them all. Just
Well, the
get the
holiday
information
pay,
to RAM.
the holiday pay is just nothing but pure
We screwed up.
nonsense that if the people aren't working here and they're getting holiday pay, somebody needs to transfer the
needs to be
information.
figured in our program.
That's where Rachel said
No, I
the department
know
has
Gary's
to
got
take
it.
ownership.
But department heads are responsible for making sure the sundial information is correct. And like Rachel said, they need to take ownership of that.
Yes, they do.
Because it all falls back on, that's the only reason that they have that job of proofing and approving the sundial before it goes in.
And
No.
if there's something fundamentally that'll make that easier in Sundial, that's like a programming thing, then they need to talk to Joe and to Paul about
I
it.
believe that's been changed.
Okay.
They don't automatically put holidays in now?
Right, that's the way I understood it was gonna be changed.
Now you have to manually do it?
Yes, if that's what's
And
one of
then
the
it's
safeguards.
if I'm responsible for my employees,
Yeah.
I'm responsible to make sure they get their holiday pay. It isn't an automatic.
That's
That's
the way
right.
it should be.
That's the way it should be.
That I understand, we can call Paul, but I believe that's something we worked on, because it was
Must
kind
have
of
been
a...
yesterday.
8 months.
Well, I spent a lot of time here yesterday.
I know you did.
Did you ask him that? Do we?
Yes, I believe that was
Okay.
changed to eliminate that confusion
Okay.
because of this last payroll where people that didn't even work here got vacation pay. I said, well, how does that happen? Well, it's automatically put in. It doesn't need to be. We got to take that out and let somebody manually put it in. So we
Right.
will check here in a minute on that. As far as the sundial seems to be our issue. All the little bugs we've had there, the way our timekeeping device is getting done, I don't believe it's...
I'll get you my spreadsheets after the meeting, Gary.
Okay.
Then you can look at the comparisons between
And I guess one of the other things,
Sundial and RAM.
I guess, is this a department head, or is that in charge? My understanding is we have people that are split between departments. Don being an example, auditor, landfill. My understanding is when they went to Sundial, there was a caption, are you with landfill or are you with auditor? It's the damn employee's responsibility to put what department he's working in for that day. And we had 6 or 7 of them.
Is that working?
I believe it is, but let's find out.
Well, in order to see if it's working, you'd have to have one of those employees go into their
See if it offers
login
that.
and see if it offers it.
Do you have one? Call Don.
Yeah, you got about
he's not
5
working
minutes to
today.
come on up.
He's over in his other...
Ask Chris Heeman.
Okay, thanks.
I'll
call him.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, Chris in my office?
Yeah. I've got Paul coming over.
Yeah.
Between,
Got me a
Give
check.
me your option.
Yeah,
I
check
think
with
he's,
Chris.
I think Gary's calling him right now.
But you understand where all this is coming from, is it's all the information that we're gathering and putting in, and if that isn't correct, how do you think payroll's ever gonna get right?
Gary, are you calling Chris?
Yeah. But there is, and I've looked at some Sundial reports, and we've got employees that aren't even bothering to check their Sundial. Isn't that a requirement by our policy that says you are responsible to check your time card?
Until a few get done really bad.
Maybe
So
we
there's
need to...
no
not gonna even
responsibility to go
notice
over
that.
here, that we
Yeah.
need to start enforcing that. If we've got department heads and employees that are not taking the time to even check their Sundial time card, I'm gonna call it.
Could I talk
Yeah.
to Chris Heeman?
Are they auditing that, or is that something
That's
we need
something
to
we are
audit
gonna
it
start
every...
doing.
Are these reports available in like Excel? These Sundial reports?
I don't know what format they're in, but they are available.
Because I want to develop some internal accounting controls where it's going to be
Have you had
internally
any
audited at 3
issue
different
in
steps.
Sundial
And if they can be in Excel,
logging
and we
in
can just
as
do some
state's
quick like
attorney
pivot tables,
versus
it'll take no time
lead?
at all, and literally would just resolve all.
So what would be your 3 steps, like the employee, the department head?
Well, it's on the department heads to make sure the employees use
Are
their
you
time
at the
cards,
computer right
sign
now?
their time cards, and the department head has the knowledge to know if an employee's time card is whack, you know? So it's on the department head to make sure that's right. But once the time
Yeah,
cards
no,
are proven
you
to the
should be
department head,
logging in
that
as
report
state's
should have a
attorney.
quick
There should be
scan by Human Resources.
two
And when
options
RAM is
there.
done with their accounting and they send their Excel or upload over to the auditor's office, I want Sundial to be verified against what RAM sends for upload. And if
Well,
that
it would
matches,
just be,
then the
it'd be
upload
the
occurs.
same.
And then once the upload occurs and
Just under,
Encode
I
has
think
something
you
to
just
export
change your
to the bank,
department
we want that
or-
file verified
or I don't
against
know if they do just
what we
the
originally
FA,
received to make sure there's nothing wacky in the software from
versus-
Encode.
Now,
That make
Paul's
sense?
coming over to there.
It's got Kathy, they have shut Encode off completely.
But not
see
the
another option
accounting
there.
portion of it.
No.
Not the accounting, but there's no interface between the payroll portion of Encode and the accounting portion of
Okay.
payroll.
So you're saying
I'm working on
spreadsheet
doing
not
that
there.
manually.
Call my mobile.
So
All
the
right.
file that we
Okay.
sent to the bank,
That comes from RAM now.
Okay, so we need a way to make sure that is accurate
Right.
against something.
Yes, and that's what audits told us when they were here. But we haven't been able to get it.
Question
And so
is,
we
what
can't-
do you check that against?
What?
The question is, what do you check that against?
Well, the Sundial.
Where does the report for the accounting come from? Where will it come from?
I am trying to put it together now as we speak
Well,
for
no, like in
November.
the future, like when I take office, when we upload the actual accounting after the paychecks are cut, where does that data come from?
That'll be coming from RAM.
From
From
RAM.
RAM.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll need to have an internal audit to make sure what we're uploading from RAM reverts back and
I'll
matches
kind of
to
commission
Sundial.
this, Gary.
So we need all these reports available in some form of Excel.
Mhm.
And this won't take long to do the audit, but that internal control is critical here.
So you can just look at the, then you can have a comparison almost instantly.
Yeah, you can, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Excel pivot tables
Yeah.
or something like that, but that, utilizing that sort
Yeah, it
of
should be in
auditing
the
would solve
login
all of this, if
screen.
we can just have this data in a
Call
timely
the
fashion
option
and,
for Chris to,
I guess, you know what I
Well,
mean?
when RAM is,
Because
it hasn't been interfaced yet, but when RAM gets done, the it'll be interfaced, and they'll have it in a file form, and it'll just come over and go to the departments and hit the accounting part of it.
Because could we upload that accounting before we, and not actually approve it, just upload it to get a file before we send the checks to the bank?
No,
Because
because it's not interfaced.
Well, once it is interfaced, that will be an option.
They don't know when it'll be interfaced.
So until it's interfaced,
The interface is waiting for the data to be correct, that's it.
Okay, so I need to fill the data.
We need
Data
to
is
have
Sundial.
correct.
So it's all the data that we're
Yes,
waiting on.
we need to-
Okay,
And where's the data at that we need?
Well, we need to be verified that everything that's been given to RAM is correct for every employee.
And who's doing that?
I'm thinking Gary's working on it.
Okay.
now my question is on the automatic
26.
holiday pay, that has been changed now, my
What is
understanding?
automatic holiday pay?
Well,
It's right here.
like, some of the departments were approved holiday pay, and they don't even work there anymore, because it's automatically put in.
25.
Because they were not
You'll find-
notified to be deactivated because they don't work there anymore. But yes, we've added a line of code saying if they have 0 hours, they don't get holiday pay.
is that something that shows up on the department head's report to
Yes.
approve that they have an employee
Yes.
no longer working,
And then-
that is getting paid? So the
Yes.
department head approved that.
Yes, they did.
Okay, so I don't even know if we need to have manual entry the holidays. That seems like a lot of work for the sheriff's office, but have department heads accountable
These are
for approving an
coded
employee that no longer works here to be paid.
11.
That's part of the issue, yeah.
I guess personally, I would rather have
This is 214.
holiday automatic,
There's Terry
and then
Evans.
it's on the department head to
Bill
verify
Ram.
the one-off
This is
and the employees
Sundial,
who
this
quit
is
are.
Ram.
The only ones that are an issue is in the public safety side, if they have if they're normally scheduled day off, they get vacation hours instead of holiday pay, because otherwise it puts them in an overtime.
But as a department head, I wouldn't want to enter in holiday pay for 100 employees.
No, I
You
agree
know
with
what I
you.
mean?
And they don't now.
But they will be with this change.
No, this change is just if they have 0 hours. So somebody was
Oh,
left,
okay,
That's-
okay. There was no
and they
question.
were
So that-
deactivated.
That's the
If
difference.
that person didn't
This is the
work,
way it should be.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that, okay. I thought
but
it was
see what
all
happened, we had
employees.
people that had 0 hours work, and they got paid for 2 days,
Yeah,
2 hours overtime, which
Because
is
they weren't
stupid.
deactivated, they weren't classified as being no longer working here.
But it still got approved.
It got approved by the department heads, whoever approved the pay will approve that pay, even though they didn't work there anymore.
So now the next question comes in, and when they run in, clock in the
I
sundial,
don't see it now.
we have several people now, have changed from Whedon passed over auditor, we have Logan, I believe, is now at deeds versus
Right.
auditor. They're still coming up under the old departments.
Because they haven't been put into those departments yet by,
Apparently, that's what it sounds like, Chris, I just called Chris and that was...
so apparently they haven't been, what
He's not
happens, they have
coming
to be
up
put
with
into
an
that
option.
department so they can log into that
He's not
department.
giving
By
us-
HR?
Not giving us an option.
So HR, Gary, has to be responsible for putting
Right.
them in the proper category and the proper department.
And that should have been done last year already, so...
Well, then they're taken out when they don't work there anymore. So they just,
So-
when they move from,
Like Chris will bounce back and forth.
when he goes from
Attorney
lead to state's attorney,
Yep.
he needs to be added
I
state's
guess
attorney.
these questions may seem ridiculous, but when, say Logan is under the auditor's office, and the payroll comes up for the auditor to approve, why isn't anything done at that point saying, hey, this is not my employee, I don't approve this, and then immediately get transferred to the correct department?
Because it isn't in Sundial, it's just in RAM.
No, it's in Sundial, you have to approve their time.
Yeah, and Sundial's where you approve it.
Let me
I mean, if they're in your department, if Logan's showing in the auditor department, he's gonna show up in the auditor department, and if they approve them, they're approving them for auditor pay and instead of...
And that's how RAM processes it.
Correct, and that's
what
what
they-
You're
Yeah.
only following what's being
Yeah.
told.
So then again, it comes back to the department head.
Okay.
Or
So
what
in that
works
case,
in your
Sundial.
department.
why didn't
Yeah.
auditor say not
Payroll.
mine, and register of deeds say, where is mine?
Sundial did not
You know what
have
I'm
Dawn.
saying?
That's...
But Ram-
Yeah, there's
that's
nothing-
the
there's a
way
lot of
they should
employees
be
over there.
affirmed.
Sundial did not
It's
have
just
Logan.
a simple example.
But Ram did.
I think the problem
under
is relying
auditor.
on department heads, not
So I
this.
shift them to land.
It's their job is to oversee
So
the
you made the
employees.
shift.
That's the,
Well,
that's
once
why
I
they
did-
kept the pay.
Apparently not, because he's been
The accounting
working in their office
interface
again.
manually done.
But didn't you have to sign off on that before it went to RAM?
I signed off on Sundial, and my amount was $8,091.82 that was sent to RAM. When RAM paid it, they paid $84.95.92. Don't ask me.
So this is Sundial.
That's Sundial, that's what I approved. And this is what RAM generated. under auditor's office.
So somehow Logan got signed off in
No, not in
auditor.
Sundial, no. There were 0 hours, 0 pay for Logan in auditor. In Register of Deeds office,
And that's my point. Logan wasn't transferred to Register of Deeds. 'Cause,
in RAM,
right, and that information didn't get to RAM.
right.
But he was transferred by your checking it out. When you checked
But
it out,
he
Logan wasn't on
he
there.
didn't show up in auditor, so there was nothing to
Right.
approve.
You're approving your...
So
And
somewhere we
did
dropped the
show
ball.
up.
Approve it.
He did
It
show up
automatically goes and
for
they don't
Roberta.
look at
She
it. They
approved
just-
his 373.28.
So, it comes down to the department head level or whoever.
But that information never reached RAM.
Correct. Okay.
So that's where we dropped the ball.
So it's not, it's never been the issue that RAM processes the numbers that
That's
they
not
get.
it.
Sundial is the
Exactly
problem.
what we send them.
That's the bottom line.
Management.
So
and
HR
sometimes
also
the
has to make
information
sure
is-
you're looking at Sundial to
Right.
make sure the Logans of the world
Well,
are in
and
the
then
right
Exactly what we
department.
send them.
And that's the issue too, is that we're dependent upon the department heads to say when people leave, to say when people are transferring.
But according to that sheet, Logan didn't show up
Yeah.
under auditor.
Yeah.
So,
So where is the, okay, so, and this is just an example, obviously, but if Logan wasn't on auditor's payroll, he was on registered deeds correctly, and we send a file to RAM, how did it get, where did that get mixed up?
In HR. Is that right? It didn't
that's
get,
what I'm
it
trying
didn't
to
get
determine.
switched over?
Which department did Logan
Who's
get paid
switching
out
it?
of?
You got paid out of
Deeds.
deeds.
So then that means he's supposed to be getting paid out of deeds?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so,
so it
So
was
what's the
right.
problem?
well,
Because the auditor also got paid out of the auditor.
No, he didn't
No.
get paid out of the
When he
auditor.
went to their budget.
no.
No, nothing's gone to the budget for November yet.
So,
I guess I'm failing to understand what
Okay,
exactly
so-
is wrong.
Explain this to me. We have Logan. Max said he wasn't in hers when she
Don
signed
did
out.
not get
Bob-
paid for auditor.
because he didn't punch in on that.
Roberta said it,
And
she
Logan
had
did
it.
not get paid.
But when Ram paid him,
supposed to get paid from
they paid out of
No.
auditor.
Okay, so,
But
and not out of
Ram's
deeds.
total has Don
Where's the
and
communication?
Logan paid out of auditor rather than landfill and register of deeds.
so Ram wasn't given the new department head that they were in.
Just to resolve
We
some of
didn't
it,
send Ram the data, is what you're telling
could we
me.
just go employee by employee and just compare Sundial versus RAM
That's
and just
what
knock
we're-
it
That's what
out?
we're doing.
That's
what
what
I'm
we're
doing.
trying to
Yeah,
get to.
that's what-
I mean,
that's what
just
we
like,
do.
not on those numbers, but just on the broader things. Like hours are right, department is right, and W-2 is
And that's
right.
what's been worked, being worked
That's what
out
they're
the
working
last
on.
couple of weeks. So, we're still.
So that comes back to my Sundial question. If they're an employee that moves from department to department, seasonal, like Chris is, Logan, you have the nurse that does blood draw, comes out of one department
Well,
versus,
blood draws, the nurses are totally different because those are vouchered and then entered manually. So
Okay.
blood draws are entered in the state's attorney and all the other ones are entered into jail. The state's attorney pays the blood draws and all the rest is supposed to be paid by
Let's look at
jail.
blood draws.
so then what happens with the security thing in the jail with transport people?
Same thing, that's all vouchered.
Sundial,
Okay?
They're vouchered and
the
then
blood
some, they're put
draws
in the
are
payroll
correct. There's the
at
400
the
and there's
end,
the...
whenever they turn them in. Same with
In
the
RAM,
weed
they're
board, the
incorrect.
P&Z board, all those are
But I
vouchered.
believe
and
right
put in.
now, some of those are not hitting the right departments then. Am I
So they're
correct?
not being put in the right department, they're not being put in.
Okay. Where we are again, the information that we are,
Sending RAM is incorrect.
No, Paul, the information in Sundial is correct.
I think what would help resolve this is before auditor uploads payroll to the bank, RAM also includes an Excel of everything that file totals to.
They do.
They do, and then why can't those be compared against each other before it's uploaded and we know discrepancies before it happens?
Why can't we get a copy of that, Paul?
It's in the VPN. Sarah has it every time before she does it.
No.
Yes, she does, every time. It's
Not
there.
until she hits the button.
Every button is there in the VPN. Every report is in the VPN. I can pull them up for you. They're all there, every report. The deduction summary, the benefit summary, the ACH summary. You can't do an ACH without a summary. It's all in that VPN. They have access to it as soon as that's created. Since payroll's created, that's all in the BPM, isn't it, Gary?
Yes, it is, yeah.
I think
Every
Those
report-
are the samples
That's where
that
she
you
gets her
sent.
total
Those are the
from.
samples I sent the other day.
They were
documented again?
You should show them to Kathy, she's
Yep.
gonna have to be working
Yeah,
with
they're
them.
all
Yeah,
there.
if you can compare those two files, you'll know instantly.
And they could be done in a spreadsheet,
Yeah.
no problem, just,
Like if the data could include just, I mean, anything and everything, all the way down to the employee level and that
yeah, if you
spreadsheet.
want to stop over, I'll
That
just show
would
you
be-
every report that comes with
Does
every
Gary now have the
payroll.
changes that need to go to
Sounds
RAM
like
to
the bills and
fix those
accounts
previous
for this,
payrolls?
and teach those guys.
He had them the night before
And then you can see
Thanksgiving.
how fast that
But he
information gets
didn't
there,
know.
whether they
They've been working
decide to
on
hit
them.
the
I know
button
they've been working.
timely or not, that's
Ram
the
has-
choice.
As soon as they
You need to call them
all
and
the
get a
reports
go
are in
date.
the BPM.
and they-
Yeah,
and
from
they
what I
mention-
saw of your reports.
Because we can
The
work on the
information
interface
was
All the
that
there.
we're
data's
done with
there,
that.
every time.
Okay.
Okay.
So now my next question, when they log into Sundial,
Mm-hmm.
and whether they're landfill auditor or whatever, do they have a choice when they log into Sundial?
As long as their HR puts them in all the departments they work in, like,
And we know that they get trained.
yeah, as long as Chris is in the state's attorney's department, every time you, because we can't just put him in state's attorney, because in the middle of the winter, they'll go to a weed meeting, which goes to the weed budget, so they have to choose which one, but they have to be put in the department to get that option to pop up. If you're in two departments, it'll pop up every time.
That's unique with Chris because,
No, this whole weed guys are that way because of the highway. All the other guys work at the highway all winter, but they go to weed meetings, so they're the same way.
Like Mike.
they've
he
always
bounces
just
back and
taken
forth.
it out of highway in the winter. That's why we do the percentage split.
But if you make it convenient, if
That's
they're
what they did
there,
last
you
year.
won't have to do any of that manual work. It's there, it's
Exactly.
done, it's over.
I thought that was the goal, to get away from
That
all the
would-
manual entry and all the errors that go
Absolutely.
with it.
So that's the next question, is Sundial set up for these employees that are split that way? We want to make sure they have the option when they log in?
As long as they're put in that department by HR.
So that would be the question I have, is we need to pull them up and see what their access is to that.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yep. Make sure, it's just
Can you
like
guys
the,
check on that
just like the
this week?
terminated employees,
Yeah,
if nobody knows about it, they don't get checked as inactive,
They're gonna get paid.
they're gonna get paid for a holiday, if they were eligible. Well, unless now they have 0 hours, because we put that, another check and balance in
Yeah.
to cure the
No hours,
lack
no
of
pay.
communication problem.
So Chris Heeman does have the option?
Not
So we
right
need to get
now.
that fixed.
Yep, that's,
We'll get that.
you're okay for that.
And anybody else that is in that type of
Anyone else that
situation
works
needs
multiple
to...
departments needs to be in both
Mike
departments.
Rohrbach, he goes back and forth.
Gerald, Larry, Cam.
Yep.
How would we handle like Sarah, who's split between 4-H?
That's
and
an
Fair?
automatic split 50/50.
That's automatic.
In
Regardless.
Sundial, but not RAM.
Okay.
It is, well, it will be on the interface coming back. They have all that, you approved that, and I sent it to them. Doug and I sat down with you and went through that.
Look at Sarah's on there.
I don't know if that's been set up yet, but they have that information for the splits.
It's Department 524.
I thought it's been determined that whatever RAM gets comes from Sundial, which comes from the department head.
That's right.
But right
So
now,
anything RAM gets, if it's right in Sundial, RAM should get exactly
But
what
what you're talking about, these splits,
Correct.
is not payroll, that's accounting. That's the accounting piece they're setting up to take care of all these accounting things they need to do to send it back to the auditor. So we're crossing the line from a payroll function to an accounting function. And that's, we sent them all those codes to set up their accounting so they can do all these splits for us in their accounting system to send back, because that's not payroll anymore, we're talking accounting as far as budget splits. That's
Yeah.
accounting, not payroll.
I mean, I'll leave that up to you guys, but as long as, because right now I currently approve all of her time for Sundial because she's a county employee and Becca's technically not a county employee, so for HR continuity, it has to be me as the county employee to approve it, so. But as long as on the budget side it's split, I'll leave that up to you guys to figure out. Because it's an equal share.
Am I right on that? Budget splits are an accounting, not a payroll.
Yeah, but the challenge is coming in, whereas when we had in-code payroll, it was all just rolled together. So creating the separation is just
It's right there.
It's right there, and see, this time,
There's an adjustment on both sides to make it work.
okay, Sundial is correct.
I just care about the budget side, and the
Yeah.
page, or however you
Like
guys.
before, you just push the button
And take your own spot
And that's where we'll be when we get all the data correct, is that we can do the interface back up.
And it's
included in the
And so
county.
I'm annually split some.
It's just a little rare because most
But
people have
that's-
it.
that's okay.
So when we do that,
They're not, you know.
For Sarah and,
Yeah, most of them are solid splits,
Yeah.
and we have,
Grant.
I work here this week, I work here that week, and this time, so
Okay.
those are the unique,
Okay.
we have all these unique things.
So we have the highlighted items that we're gonna be taking care of, that they should be done by next Tuesday?
they have to be done by, before payroll starts getting approved on Monday.
All right.
So then they will be done by
Friday.
the 17th.
Yeah, we'll get it taken care of.
So my question is this, because I have a lot of people ask me, what's going on? Can I go back when all these people ask me that? I can say, it's not Ram's fault, it's department heads' faults that are approving things that shouldn't be approved.
I believe it's all our sundial, our information we're feeding RAM. I think once that information RAM gets, they're accurate in what they're doing.
So we need to stay on department heads to make sure their information
And
is
the Sundial only sends the information that our department.
yeah, it's the
approved
department
in
heads,
our-
it's not the
so-
programming.
It's not the program, it's
Well,
the
The
data we're
department
putting
heads,
into it.
and blaming other people is childish. I mean, let's take our
We just
full
need to get together
responsibility
and resolve all
take
these
care of
little
it.
minor things and go. I mean, that's where we're
When
at.
I approved my payroll, my department was correct.
Well, that's good, but there's probably other managements that, managers that
so
were
Matt,
That from
if that's
RAM,
true, tell
it
us how
was
that
wrong.
happened. So what happened then? If you approved it and it was correct in Sundial, and then it gets sent to RAM, and you're saying then it comes back from RAM
Wrong.
incorrect?
It's wrong.
Well,
So who
I
you
will say
saying
that
did
I've
it?
noticed issues where the detailed management report that the department head approves doesn't naturally match, in some cases, the detailed report of the individual employee when you run through the payroll side. That's happened
The
sporadically.
vacation and sick doesn't come up to approve
I'm
details.
talking about hours and pay. That
Okay.
it seems to have been resolved, but that was an issue at one point where the summary reports, and I even forwarded an email to Gary where...
An update.
The summary reports...
Sometimes
that-
people
yeah.
have to update user and
Right.
that issue.
I don't think anyone should leave here until we figure out why that is. Why when we're sending, if Max is sending her numbers over in Sundial one way, they're coming back from RAM a different way, we gotta figure that out. If that's
I
the way
think-
it's happening.
I think HR has to tell RAM the correct code for the employees when they change.
If they need to be put
I
in.
know, but we've established that it didn't happen on the front end though.
Yes, it is. It's in Sundial, correct.
But the
Well,
data
it
has to
can't be because Chris, we just called Chris and he can't even log into, to do it as a...
Right, because he hasn't been put in
State
your
attorney.
office.
I'm
That
talking
can't-
about Logan and
So when you...
Previous ones.
Is Logan supposed to be in your office or registered
He
deeds?
is.
Register D cell.
So when you approved it, Logan was over there.
Mhm.
On the, when you approved it, he wasn't getting approved in your office.
Sundial, he was not there. Roberta approved him over there. But when Ram's report came back, he was under auditors.
Okay, so we gotta
So
figure out why that is.
that's the data that needs to be corrected at RAM. They have the wrong department. They
And
they
that
have not
has
been,
to come
they have
from
not been
HR.
sent that update.
So when-
Where do they get their update to update it?
That would be
From-
from us.
Okay.
That's what we just established. HR
Okay.
needs to be responsible anytime there's a change in department.
Right.
RAM can only do what they've been
And
told
we gotta
to
be
do.
notified of the change too. I mean,
So-
like, we didn't know when Chris started in SA.
Does RAM have their own list, and when we send that file, they're like matching it up?
We
Or I
have,
guess
they
I-
have the change form. Anytime
But,
that the
okay,
change is made
I don't
in-
understand, I guess. If the file says Logan and auditors, RAM gets it, how is it getting, or Logan and register deeds, RAM gets it, how is it getting switched to auditor? Does RAM have something that they're like trying to match it to, it's just matching wrong? Like, I don't understand.
They don't have, because the department number, okay, so Logan got paid from this, and his, in payroll, he's paid for what he's paid for. He's approved by Roberta, he's paid for that. On the other side is accounting. Budget numbers are accounting numbers, they're not payroll numbers. Those are accounting. So a budget is an accounting
I
function,
think
not a payroll
a
function.
process map would be helpful
Yes,
here.
and that's
Like,
exactly
draw
right.
this out, like on a linear line of
Yep.
what's going on.
We need an exact procedure
So,
set.
the error with Logan getting put into the auditor's office,
HR
where did that happen at?
The change never was sent to RAM that he
So tell me this,
that
But
Paul,
the
RAM,
change
at one
wasn't-
point, RAM downloaded some deal where it had Logan and Max's office, but then when it changed, they never got the new download.
Nobody sent him the sheet saying he changed to this department.
And it wasn't included in the new payroll.
Well, and they
The
couldn't
payroll
write,
doesn't send those changes, those are sent separately.
and they couldn't
Oh,
right
I
away
see, I
because
see.
Logan was still helping with elections when he had already started in Register of Deeds.
So,
So
So
the day
RAM
that
just
a
has a
person...
list of like employee ID numbers or names, and they're just matching that. They're not concerned with the payroll for each department.
that comes out in the accounting side.
Okay.
It's all separated by department, but you gotta tell them what department until they
So
get
for
that
the
accounting
payroll
piece.
side-
Once we get data correct, they can do the accounting piece and that'll all work. It's all
So
for the interface.
if I understand, what you guys are classifying as this payroll side is all RAM is concerned with is the gross hours and the net check and the bank account.
They get time cards.
The
That's-
details on
that's
that
the payroll
are
side.
all on the auditor to have
The
entered
accounting
correct.
side.
The accounting
Yeah.
side, correct.
Are they tracking it by the employee ID number, by the social number?
By the employee ID number, which is tied to the social, the name and everything else.
The department number and the ID number is different in Sundial and RAM than it is in the accounting.
That's
But
our problem.
No, there's,
Yeah, we
there's-
correct
there's a
that.
cross-reference to it. Because when we started Sundial, there was never any talk about interfacing it to anything.
Oh, okay.
I think
But
that should
it's
be
cross-reference. In the
simplified.
data,
Change
you can pull up any employee and get their in-code number and their
Oh, you
Sundial
can.
number, their cross-reference.
So that's all.
That's all
taken
done
care
in
And
the
that's not
database.
affecting any sort of uploads in
No,
the
it is
code?
not. No, the uploads, the data to RAM comes from HR. When they make a change, they're supposed to send us, and once we get all the data correct, then they can just log in and do it. But we gotta walk before we run, we gotta get correct
Yeah.
data. Because if we import incorrect data into the accounting system, we're gonna have a big one.
Thank you.
So we need to get to ground zero before we can move forward. That's what we're trying to do.
Speaking very uniquely on the fair side with the amount of 10 people that we hire, have we eliminated the problem that we ran into before with having the same employee having two different phone numbers within Sundial, one for sheriff's office and then one for
That's so
the
they
fair?
know where the money comes out of which budget. That's what that's for. That is the
That's what
dual
we're talking
department
about, that
thing.
we need
So
that.
we still do the virtual part of it?
Yes.
Well, that makes it easier because then you can just identify that.
Because then you know these hours were supposedly worked at the fair, these hours were worked at the sheriff's office.
Makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I'll let you pour.
You're not making it, I'm not very grateful. Christmas program.
So then,
I'm going this afternoon.
we are understanding that we need to get our information correct.
We need to get our data correct, yes. And then we need a procedure so we're not approving employees that have been terminated or quit or whatever they are. So, I mean, does that come in the HR report every commission
And that's,
or?
yeah, and that's
I
what,
mean, so
that's what we're...
somewhere we should know that these people don't work here anymore and they need to be deactivated.
Right.
So.
Again, though, we need somebody to tell us
Yeah.
that. The department head needs to notify us that that person is no longer working.
Sounds like it all comes down to communication.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm
How's
saying.
that be?
Is that something that the department heads could do? Be given permission to deactivate or make somebody inactive, so then we send all that information to HR, it's already done?
That would be a commission HR discussion, not an IT discussion.
Straight line communication. you're
Either way,
talking
the
about.
department head's gonna
Yeah.
have
So
to
then,
That'd be a little easier.
either do it or communicate to HR, it needs to be done.
because like in a split situation, like if Chris is moving from a Wednesday to a Thursday, theoretically, the HR report would have to be filed a week and a half before, potentially. Where if the department head knew at the approval process, they could make that, if the IDs are unique based on which department they're working into as well as the person, we could make it inactive on our side and solve the problem.
But they can't inactive until their last payroll.
Correct.
So if they tell you on Monday and payroll's on Friday, they're theoretically have another payroll before you can deactivate.
Right, so in the detail management, you would approve that particular payroll that following Friday, and then you would deactivate them the following Monday.
Or
Because
HR.
that's the thing that happens is that, you know, if they have their vacation sick payouts and stuff, people want to deactivate them and they want them off the sheet. Well, we can't do that because they
Till
still
their
need a
payroll's
payout.
Yeah, I'm not saying deactivate them before the payroll, I'm saying
Yeah,
deactivate after
yeah.
the payroll. Because if they use the wrong login, let's say in this case, the National Register of Deeds uses his login because he forgets what his different login is over in Register, that could theoretically generate a false report on the auditor.
The only thing I would caution is, I'm just gonna say this. If we're approving people that don't work there anymore to get paid holidays, what's gonna ensure they're not deactivating the wrong person? So you accidentally hit an active employee, now they're not getting paid.
Then that's failure of leadership at the department.
Well,
Exactly.
if they're already failing
I mean, there's
leadership at the
responsi-
department by approving somebody that's getting,
So there's responsibility that falls, and we don't want to create another issue. You know, we need to check in the
I'd rather
balance
make
on
an
that, too.
adjustment on a couple hours of vacation than I would a whole paycheck.
You know, so so we be cautious when you step over that line where you have rights to do things, there's responsibility that comes with it.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I think if you're going to accept the
So we need to look at all that.
Well, I
you know,
think
and- or the commission does anyway, as far as what rights they give, what they don't give.
I would say the reverse is true. If somebody wants to continue to handle that responsibility, then they need to also
Handle it.
own the failure.
Exactly.
Wherever it occurs.
I agree 100%.
So, the issues will be resolved to our next commission meeting. We will put payroll on the agenda for next Tuesday again. And we will follow up on this, and we'll keep hammering on this until we get it right.
I won't have time before next Tuesday to do the comparison for payroll 26 to see if the changes were made. Why shouldn't the payroll go back to being due at 10 on Monday so that we have time to...
That's what the commission deems, yes. And that's a policy decision.
Now payroll isn't due in Sundial until 5 o'clock on Tuesday, and it's sent to RAM first thing Wednesday morning so that the checks, so that the ACH is sent to the bank on Wednesday afternoon. It doesn't really give enough time to proof in between.
I kind of concur with that. We could use a little more time.
Remind us why
For
we
a stronger
switched to
internal
Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
I'm not sure.
I
Kidding.
think it was the jail and those that had a ton of employees.
Yeah, it's just the bigger departments that were having issues
Highway and
getting
those.
it done.
So,
But,
I
I
mean,
mean-
that's 100% a policy decision on your guys' part.
Even 5 o'clock on Monday.
That seems reasonable.
I think we
Because there's a
moved it-
reason we moved it back to
Well, I think
Tuesday
we've
at
moved
5.
it twice now.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiple times. So,
So do we need to move it back to Monday at 5?
I would entertain a motion to do that.
I'll make that motion.
policy change. I would
Put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Because
They
I
can
can
retract
tell you
your
that if
motion?
the jail thinks that that's gonna be an issue, they're gonna want to
Can
get
we
rid of
see
it.
how long it would take? Well, I guess we don't know how long it's gonna take to do this internal comparison, do we?
you got it.
Like if it's only gonna take 2 hours to do the internal comparison, and we might not need to.
I mean, 'cause when does the ACH have to be to the bank? Thursday at 3 or Wednesday at 3?
Wednesday at 3.
Wednesday at 3. Because that's the determining factor. It has to be the bank at a certain time to get the payroll out.
On
So
Friday.
that's what we got to base off.
And currently, we're at Tuesday at
That's
5
a
o'clock,
holiday week, yeah.
which doesn't cut a lot of time, Tuesday at 5 till Wednesday at 3.
No.
To do everything done.
And if
So I
there were
guess-
to be something at RAM that would hold up getting the payroll back to us, I don't know, a sickness, illness, who knows what, that could be a concern as well.
Maybe you go Tuesday morning at 10.
We'll put it on the agenda for Tuesday.
Yeah, put it on.
Can we send out a memo strongly encouraging any department that's possible to have it in by 5 o'clock Monday
Yeah.
until we get the policy changed? Everyone you get in is going to be that much less you have to prove on Wednesday morning. I mean,
Now, does that mean Patty's going to be here to have her side of it done by then? 'Cause that's the determining factor. Because we don't send it until Patty's approved it or the HR department.
Because we
has
can't
it.
proof until we get that file from RAM back anyway. So that's where the timeline is when does RAM get the file to the auditor to do the internal control?
Probably not until they get everything from the county at once.
Yeah, once we
Yeah.
send the file, it's a few hours and it's back.
Well, in theory, if we're given them clean data out of whatever system we're using, then the audit should match. unless-
Yeah, it should take, no time at all, but,
As long as their system's updated with where all the
Yeah.
employees are.
And if you have a spreadsheet, that'll make it so much
it
easier.
just
I mean,
hasn't been
If you
maintained.
compare, we send the file over. Before we went to RAM, we compared Sundial to Encode. Now we send it over, so anything we send in Sundial matches to what RAM sends back.
Right.
Now, does it match to, do we not send them the step increases? Does we have that problem, then it matches to what we sent them.
Sure.
But it might not match to that kind of information that wasn't sent to them prior to.
A lot of that should be already factored in, because aren't we required to do step increases and transfers the week before?
Yeah, but sometimes they don't get sent, or they haven't so far.
Well, I think
But that's an internal
That's
control
an internal,
problem.
that's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
area thing, it's not a RAM issue, it's...
My question is, we're making the ACH, not RAM.
No, RAM trading ACH.
So RAM hits our bank account?
No, it comes to the auditor to approve, and they send it to the bank. They create the file,
Right.
the auditor sends it to the bank.
We're having trouble with an internal process of how do we verify what's being sent to the bank is right.
And there's a register that comes with the ACH with every dollar that's in it. is
Seems
accounted
pretty
for.
straightforward. Look
Yeah.
at the data file that was done from sent to RAM compared against to what they did, and see if it matches.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But we keep throwing an orange in this of, okay, now we're trying to match it to Encode, which isn't doing payroll. So we're throwing in a factor that doesn't have the same numbers.
But encode is what we use to define our budgets and whether or not we're on
Right.
track.
But we're trying to compare it to Encode payroll, which we're not using. And that's what's confusing's coming in.
Shouldn't they match?
No, because we're not doing payroll in Encode.
Let's-
If they match it, if Encode has the exact same data as RAM, they'll match perfectly.
Again, like Chris
Right.
being in my
Yeah.
department now instead of Weed Pest,
Right.
which all that stuff has
Well,
lagged
what-
behind and not been up.
Payroll isn't being entered into Encode
Correct.
since
So-
the end of October.
So was he paid correctly for RAM?
Yes.
And I'm thinking,
So
I
he was
used
paid
to-
exactly what
He was paid correctly, but from
Exactly
Weed
what we
Pest,
sent him.
not from my office.
Yeah. So it's hitting the...
That's a general ledger adjustment. John.
That's an
Exactly, it's
accounting.
an accounting
function.
function.
Exactly.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, that's an accounting function, not a payroll function.
Okay.
Okay, and we got this matter resolved for next Tuesday. We-
Oh, hell no.
Well, I would say, let's make sure next Tuesday, every single person that has an issue gets them on the table so we can answer them all. Because every time we leave here, after a payroll discussion, a new issue comes up.
Right.
It needs to be addressed either today or Tuesday, so that we don't have anything that we're leaving behind, so that you folks can have all the information to get figured out.
If you
And
want
I
my...
apologize, I didn't realize Vicki and Rich were here because I'd never seen Vicki before.
I would, in my opinion, the number one priority is to get all the data at RAM correct to what it's supposed to be. That would be by Friday before payroll cuts. You
That
know,
would include these ones that were wrong for payroll 21,
Correct.
22. So
Correct.
it all comes down to the information the county has to furnish and make sure
RAM
it's
to get
correct.
this corrected, so we can start at ground zero, and then we can move forward. We gotta get to ground zero before we can move forward,
Okay,
you know, so...
I guess just being I'm not an employee of the county, I just thought I'd ask publicly, would it be all right if I had access to this data? Kind of just take a look and see what's going on, see what kind of reports we have, and what we may
Absolutely.
need going on
Given
in
what
the
your
future?
responsibility is going to be sometime in March, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, I would say the more information you can get now, the better chance.
When you
you're
get
gonna
access, hopefully I get access
hit
to the
the ground
reports
running.
from RAM.
I'll hook you up, Max.
No, I
So
think
far,
that
Sarah's the only
Kathy-
one that has access in the office.
I would think if Kathy's going into Max's office to learn all of this.
Max says
should
he
be
doesn't
welcome.
have access.
Well, she just said Sarah does, so if Sarah does, Max does.
Yeah.
Just
No,
like,
no, 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 no.
did you not just say Sarah in your office has
Sarah's
access?
the only one in the office with access to RAM.
So Sarah's in your office, so your office has access.
So you have
Penny
access.
Penny's the only one in my office that has access to a lot of stuff, but my office still has access.
Okay,
I mean,
but I can't look at the reports.
you can walk over to Sarah's desk or use her login to look at it, I suppose. I mean, I don't know, or she could print them, I don't know. Ask RAM for access.
Never mind. I'll let
Well, what's the
Kathy...
issue? Let's talk it out so we all know what's going on. 'Cause I leave these
I
meetings
mean-
and I'm confused how this isn't fixed. What's the problem? Sarah has access, do you need access? Will RAM not give you access? Have you asked RAM for access?
I-
That's what you just said.
I don't
You
know
have
who authorizes access.
access. Have you asked RAM? How'd Sarah
RAM
get
sets up the users, that's their VPN.
How'd
Okay.
Sarah get access?
Gary has it, Patty has it, Sarah has it, as soon as RAM sends
I guess
us
I've
the-
never asked because...
That's the problem, is these little issues, we're winding this thing up and all of a sudden, I don't have access, you can have it when I get it. Well, apparently Sarah has it. We
Yeah.
need to get through
Well,
all of
I
this,
just-
communication.
Yeah,
They'll ask them and then they'll give it to you. If they don't, then we got a bigger problem. As the auditor, you should have access, so just ask them.
I would assume so, but...
Just seems logical that you're in charge of that department, you would have access to anything your employees have access to. So,
Okay. We
got that solved.
Beat it long enough.
I was gonna say, have we got it dead yet?
No,
Okay.
wait till the last words put in here in a second, I don't know.
Eric, if you send me a list of anything you need us to do, we'll take care of it.
Did you anything while we're in session?
No, I was,
Okay.
I was asking because I use a lot of employees that are in various departments, so I want to make sure that we're prepared.
Okay, Max, we continue on where we started.
Minutes, December 6th.
Move them.
Second.
Moved by Kifley, second by Sutton, to approve the minutes from December 6th. All in favor?
Aye.
Whichever you
Opposed?
feel.
Motion carries.
Minutes, and I had claims, claims and payroll. I had payroll for 25 done, but I didn't get it in here in time, so I'll do 25 payroll next,
So just claims today, I'll move them.
just claims. Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Hanson, to authorize claims. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
HR report.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kifley, to approve the HR report.
But I do have one quick question. On a change of venue, Chris, on a change of venue to a different county, like travel over to Dade County, is that something that we have to move because of jury pool, or what?
I'm not sure, like on Heminger, we had a change thing.
Our victim's assistant did a travel over to Dade County for a
Change of venue.
change of venue. What
It
is-
wasn't a change of venue unless you're talking about a different case that I'm not aware of. What happened on that was, I have a case that I'm prosecuting for multiple counties. And to get on Judge Flimmer's calendar and move that case forward, that was that one where I was on my way to Sioux Falls for a different meeting.
Okay.
So we stopped in Day County. So yeah, Brittany came to it to be with our rape victim in Day County.
Okay, because the victim was
But
from
it's a-
Brown.
It happened in Brown. It's charged in Brown. Judge Flimmer, the only way he could get on his calendar sooner rather than
To
later
do
was
it
to
over
do
there.
it where
Gotcha.
he's
Okay.
got court, yep.
Thank you.
But it wasn't a change of venue.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Authorization for the sheriff to purchase 2 2019 Ford Interceptors.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Hanson, to authorize the sheriff to purchase the 2019 Ford Interceptors, and I believe he had those budgeted for 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Like Explorer.
The indigent council agreement has been signed by all parties except the chairman. You need to approve and authorize the chair to sign it. And then we will get the insurance certificates from each attorney and have them sign their vouchers so they're ready to go in January.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kifley, to approve the attorney contract and authorize the chair to sign, which has been reviewed by the state's attorney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Claim assignment. Second.
Moved by Kifley, second by Hanson, to authorize the chair to sign the claim assignment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That was Rachel and
Me.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Auditor's report of account. Move.
Second.
Moved by Hanson, second by Kifley, to approve the auditor's report of account. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
There were quotes from Gene Leschke from the assessor's office for the assessment notices. The Bourne Group quote was $1,680 plus postage, and Quality Equipment was $1,940 plus postage. The postage, the rate is the same, it's just, there's no exact amount until we know how many envelopes are used. So Gene is recommending the low quote of Bourne Group.
Move it. Second.
Moved by Hanson, second by Kifley, to authorize the Bourne Group to do the assessment notices of the mailing and postage. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
It's a joint cooperative agreement with NECOG for 2019.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kifley, to authorize the joint cooperative agreement between NECOG for 2019. I believe it was $24,000 and changes.
24,746.02.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
A lottery permit.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kifley, to approve the lottery permit. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Restricted
carries.
use permit application for Columbia City. This is, has to be done for DENR.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Hanson, second by Sutton to authorize the use permit, what is it? The
Waste use permit.
waste use permit for the city of Columbia. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I scanned the budgets and I'm recommending that you authorize a budget supplement for $300,000, $200,000 for jail, and $100,000 for court security. And there's some other budgets. Sheriff, I don't know how fair is going to be, but hopefully the 250 contingency will cover the rest of them.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Hanson, second by Sutton to authorize a budget supplement of $300,000.
The advertising.
Advertising for the budget supplement of $300,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Equipment purchase for the fairgrounds from federal surplus.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Hanson to approve purchase for the fairgrounds from federal surplus. This is for a Ford truck for, going to be a water truck, I believe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, that's all I have.
Gary, anything? Is there anything else to come before the commission this morning? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kippley to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.